standing here with Drew Feutz. I'm super excited to have you here today, man. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Drew is one of the CFPs that we work with. He's one of our favorite guys to work with, and I've actually known him since college. But today, as a part of the CFP Spotlight series, I just want to introduce you to Drew. So Drew, just walk me through, man, kind of like what it was like starting out. Where'd you come from? Ultimately, I know how you were at college with me, but what was it leading up to that?
Yeah, so I went to like one of the smallest public schools in the state. I graduated high school with 36 kids. I always tell people, I'm from a cornfield 35 miles southwest of Indy.
Yeah.
So we only had 2 business classes there. I took one of the 2, and then that kind of made me realize I thought I wanted to go into business in college. So started applying for scholarships. I got full tuition to Indiana State. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I knew I had to go there, right?
Yeah.
So kind of you had to be a business major to get that scholarship. So started going through there. Like I said, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, just like anybody going in, and kind of got it narrowed down to operations, supply chain management, or finance. I studied abroad in Athens the summer after my freshman year. I had an internship in Dublin, Ireland at an operations firm after my sophomore year, and that kind of made me realize I better go the finance way.
Yeah.
So, Indiana State actually has a CFP board certified program, which there are only a few schools in the state that do. So I started taking those classes. I realized this is what I want to do, right? I always knew I wanted a job where I could help people, check that off, where I could use my analytical side of my brain because I'm not a creative person at all, check that off. And, it's something that everybody needs. So,
I've heard the podcast, man. You're creative. Can't take that away. So moving on to like getting out of college, going fee only, going to Market Street, what was the thought there? Because I know that there's probably other companies trying to recruit you. You probably had the, insurance heavy companies trying to recruit you, but what made you in your mind decide that you really wanted to go with fee only?
Yeah, so at Indiana State, we had a Financial Planning Association chapter, right? I became the president of that chapter, that student chapter there, and I started coming up to the quarterly meetings that FPA has and kind of networking with people. So I met a guy he used to work at Market Street, and he said, hey, we have an internship available, so why don't you come and apply for that? And
So, getting out of college and I'm sure you had all these, companies approaching you. You wanted to do financial planning, you knew that. But what for you was it about the fee only atmosphere that really resonated versus maybe going with something more insurance heavy that we know those are out there?
Yeah, so I think I was pretty lucky that Indiana State has a Financial Planning Association student chapter. So I found that. I became the president of that, and I came up to the quarterly meetings that FPA has. So I started to network with people, and somebody who used to work at where I work now said, hey, we have an internship available, you should apply for it. So I got that. And I think that's probably where I really first started learning about fee only versus, kind of commission based or insurance or different things like that. And I realized, this really fits who I am more, because I'm an introverted person. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not, trying to just sell as many things as I can just because that's how I have to get paid. Yeah. And I think that's where it really started resonating with me.
For sure.
So Drew, as we segue more into the type of work that you do, what are your specialties and what type of clients do you really specialize in working with?
Yeah, so probably like most CFPs, we're doing comprehensive financial planning. So everything about someone's financial life, and then also managing their investments for them. Kind of a lot of the clients that I've ended up working with are high-performing salespeople. Mm-hmm. They're probably a couple in their 30s or 40s, probably have a couple of kids, and they're starting to realize that they don't really have the time to do all this by themselves. They know there's a lot of stuff that they don't know, and they kind of want to make sure that they're setting up themselves and their families for financial success.
Mm-hmm. So what sort of technology are you using? What planning software are you using? And what can clients and prospective clients expect with working with you?
Yeah, so we use financial planning software that does Monte Carlo analysis, which that's probably a whole nother episode to go through, but it kind of gives us a probability of success, and then we can use that and say, hey, if you make these changes, this is how it affects your probability, right? If you want to retire earlier, retire later, spend more, spend less, here's what it does. And we're looking at everything, so we're going through the insurance documents saying, hey, you need this disability, this life, go to BC, they'll help you get figured out, we can work with them. You need these things on your home and auto, let's go and find someone that can help you with that. you don't have estate planning documents in place, or you have really old documents in place that need updated, we'll find someone that can help you with that. So we're really acting as kind of like the quarterback and making sure that everything's working together the way that it needs to be.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things that we talk about with fee-only CFPs all the time, is the importance of having a good team and working with other great professionals who have good communication, and there's clarity in the financial plan. I think it's very important that good relationships are formed. That way, then just the client experience overall is much better. Drew, going on to like another topic, I'd say. One of his best ways of marketing, and I'll let Drew elaborate on it, is his podcast, the Circle City Podcast. So, segueing into that, you want to talk a little bit about how the Circle City Podcast, grew and how it started, and also what you're seeing as far as it helping your financial practice.
Yeah, so I mean, Circle City Success kind of started as just a way for me and one of the guys I work with, who, I mean, he's my friend as well, but just to kind of almost have like a local how I built this type of podcast where we can interview cool people doing cool things around Indianapolis and kind of allow us to learn from them. Yeah. And it really has nothing to do with what we do as financial planners, but I think it's a really good way to, now I've learned that it's probably a really good way to help kind of build our personal brands as well.
Yeah. So like, I see that the Circle City Podcast, you're posting it on all major platforms. You post it on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. What are some of the tips and tricks that you're seeing just here at the end of 2020 and post, the craziness of coronavirus and the election and how it's just evolved this year for you?
Yeah, I think kind of for the podcast world specifically, whenever you're interviewing someone, you're going to get the most engagement, the most listens, the most likes, whatever it might be, when they share it with their audience as well, right? And I think, like, especially right now, I think people are kind of in content overload. There's just so much stuff coming out. People realize, well, I can't go out and meet people, so I need to put stuff on social media, and people are kind of getting tired of that. So I think it's kind of being more creative and kind of doing more things like you guys are doing with this, too, that doesn't look the same as everything else you're seeing.
So, man, something I want to bring up, because it's something that I've thought about, everybody's thought about, is like the challenges in finances. So when you're talking to people and they're coming and talking to you to say, you're my financial planner, right? What are some of the things that they're having a hard time with, just that could be relatable to some of the people that are watching?
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned one of them earlier, which is time, right? There's only so much time, and people want to focus it more on their family, their job, their hobbies, whatever it might be. And, making sure that your personal finances are in the shape that they need to be takes a lot of time.
Sure.
I think investing is probably another big one. How much should I be investing? Am I going to be ready for retirement? Where should I put my money, whether that's my 401k, my Roth, traditional IRA, whatever else it might be.
Yeah.
What stocks, bonds, mutual funds, those types of things should I be investing in within those accounts?
Yeah. It's a big topic,
yeah,
isn't it? And the one thing I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the one thing, at least when I was doing kind of what I was doing before this, that people would be really sensitive to is it was always hard to talk about the debt.
Yeah.
And always hard to talk about the credit cards and different stuff like that. What do you see people really excited to talk about? And then when do you see the conversation kind of like sweaty palms?
Yeah.
I don't want to be talking about this anymore.
No, I think that's a really good point too. So debt is something that people always have questions about. Should I be paying down my credit card, my student loans, my mortgage? How should I do that? Should I be paying down debt, or should I be investing the money?
Right.
But then kind of going to what you were asking, I think estate planning. So for people who aren't familiar, a last will, what happens if you pass away, your healthcare and financial directives, those types of things. Those are probably the sweaty palm type of things.
Yeah.
And probably disability insurance, just because people don't really know what it is or what it does for them, and
we're all invincible too.
Yeah. I'm not gonna die. Why should I pay those premiums? I'm not gonna get disabled. Why should I pay those premiums? Right?
Yeah. I know that conversation very well. That's awesome, man. Yeah, because I think it's one of those things where people it can be difficult to talk about, and some people feel like, well, I'm in way over my head and maybe I need to pay off this debt or do, one of these 10 other things before I even go talk to a financial planner, which is exactly the opposite, probably, right? Because you can just keep getting yourself into these loops of, you more debt, or you're not investing, or you're not contributing to retirement, and going to talk to somebody who actually will keep you accountable is the actual key.
Yeah, that's something that I've thought about often is, whenever you talk to someone, then they say, well, I'm not ready for a financial planner.
Yeah.
Well, do you want someone to help you get there quicker, or do you want to struggle on your own? And then when are you going to be ready for one?
Right, sure. Just being honest with them.
Yeah.
Hey Drew, so as we sit here today, let's talk a little bit about how important it is to educate your clients. And I'm really interested to hear, and also to hear you share with everyone who's watching this, the different ways that you get out your content and that you're educating your clients and prospects.
I think that education is extremely important because, we talked about earlier, most people don't know anything about their personal finances, really. They might have some small ideas, but there's just so much that goes into it. And, if I give someone a financial plan, but I don't educate them why, they're probably not going to follow through on a lot of the things, right? So a couple ways that I try to educate is, I've been writing a blog for a long time, I think since 2016 maybe.
Certifiably financial,
Yep,
correct?
Yep.
Check it out.
I've been quoted in quite a few news articles on sources like Forbes, Business Insider, all kinds of things like that. So, I started out going out to reporters who were looking for quotes, and now I've kind of got to a point where reporters will come to me asking to help them.
Yeah.
And I just do generally social media posts to help educate people on financial topics as well.
And what's really cool is that now that you've been doing it for 4 or 5 years, that you have this huge bank of content that not only is it popping up in Google searches and with search engine optimization and ways that it also just helps generate business for you, but I mean, it's just so cool to kind of see how you've been documenting your career the entire time as well.
Yeah, and I will say something kind of going along with that is, writing the blogs, doing social media posts and stuff. I think it's really a great way for me to learn and make my skills better because, when you're writing a blog about a topic, you're going to go and read everything that you can that everybody else has written, and then you're going to kind of say, okay, I like this idea from there, I like this piece from there, and it just helps you learn more and be able to explain it better to the people that you're helping.
Exactly. Brock and I talk about it all the time with marketing and things like that, how important it is that you have a consistent platform and a consistent way that you put your content out. But at the same time, you always need to be tweaking 1 or 2 variables and seeing, hey, does this work for that? Because at the end of the day, we do want people to see the content. We do want people to engage. And at the end of the day, we would love for people to start working with Drew as well. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we're doing this, and Drew's one of the best in the field at it.
Well, thanks, I appreciate that.
Guys, thanks so much for checking out Drew's story today, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank
we
you.
appreciate it. We're going to leave a link to all of his stuff in the link below here on the YouTube video so you guys can see his blog. You can have access to his podcast and then also to Market Street. So thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you soon.